I have often said, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to observe that. In fact, Gardsard coined the term called suicidal empathy for these people. And I'm sure all of you would have noticed that too. But it's a good thought experiment when you sit down and think about it. Where did things go wrong for Western civilization? When did the West go from the most prosperous, the most disciplined, the most organized society to what we see today? I'm sorry. No one can say that this is good. Let me actually start. I uploaded this video. I actually created this side-by-side video just to make this point that I'm about to make. This is Brussels. Only 20 years ago in 2005, nothing. But this is Brussels today. Everyone who goes to Brussels tells you that this is an absolute dump. Absolute dump. Belgium, we don't associate what you're looking at on the right of the screen with Brussels. But this is how Brussels used to be. And this is not just the story of Belgium or Brussels. If you have a look at Paris, parts of London, the UK, and it's so clear that multiculturalism hasn't worked that no one, you'd think, would make excuses for it. But we live in the world where far left, wokey, lefty lunatics are still trying to say, no, we need more multiculturalism. So it's a good thought experiment to sit down and think, where did things go wrong? I have often said that Western civilization became too civilized for its own good, too civilized. And even though empathy and compassion on their own are good, but that can only take you so far. For example, in the 80s and the 90s, we experienced the best decades in terms of human rights, in terms of animal rights, in terms of women's rights, in terms of, and then obviously in the 2000s, the first decade of this century was great for the gay community. Because up until 2010, most of the Western world was still homogenous to some extent. Yes, you had a lot of immigrants, especially in the UK, but they were first-generation immigrants. Their children hadn't showed up yet, which they did later on. They would have some understanding of the local culture, of the natives, but because they grew up in their shadow, under the shadow, or under the shadow of a foreign system that they saw that their parents struggled to perform in, they couldn't match the lifestyle of the natives. Therefore, they developed some sort of a resentment towards the natives, and they extended that to the native culture, the very culture that actually was so compassionate, that was like this. Listen to this boomer.
We all have to think in terms of the one world, one humanity. And we all have international obligations to fulfill if it's going to be a peaceful world for everybody.
Do you think we should take as many as we can fit in?
Yes, I do, most definitely. And that I think that we should cooperate in many ways to make sure that the needs of these people are fulfilled.
What about the racial tension that might well be created here as a result?
Well, I think that we have to implement new education schemes into the schools to change people's attitudes.
As I said, look, this is a decent woman. She's a boomer from the 60s. Her intentions are good. What's the saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions or something like that. This was inevitable. I think this is inevitable. When there's plenty to go around, when you are prosperous, that's when you start worrying about the world. I don't know which classical Hellenistic philosopher said that when your stomach is not empty, then that's when you have time for philosophy. I'm paraphrasing it, so don't quote me, but you understand the sentiment. This is what happened to the West. Too many people became too prosperous, too comfortable, too humane, too educated. But as I said, even though humanity, compassion, and empathy, those things are good on their own, but when your empathy supersedes the average empathy of the world, then it becomes unsustainable. That's exactly what happened to the West. The West became too empathetic. We wouldn't see people hacking each other off in broad daylight in the middle of central London. We wouldn't see that. So, okay, how bad could it be? Let's bring in other people. So then we started bringing in people from really, really primitive, backward cultures, something that was frowned upon. Nobody could even say that. Actually, a lot of lefty loonies would still not call them barbaric cavemen, primitive cultures, but I would. And this language is only going to get more intense. And look at the left. They're still not course correcting. So once they started bringing in those people, this is what started happening. Look at this. According to some estimates, nearly 1,000 churches have been burned down in the last 10 years in France, Germany, the UK, and Canada for some reason. Why? Well, I know why. I have a guess. I think I was reading a report somewhere where they said that 80% of them were arsoned. And you still have these people who are still doubling down. Look at this. But anyway, they are a shrinking minority. This is Deputy First Minister of Scotland, meaning she's equivalent of a Deputy Prime Minister in the UK or Australia.
Scotland is a tolerant.
Look at this. This woman is dressed like a camel trader's wife. Look at it. Just to show solidarity?
Scotland is a tolerant, peaceful, and an inclusive country.
So much so that I'm scared that if I took this off, then it might offend someone, some Muslim.
That's why it's so important at the current time, when we see the rise of division in our society, that we support our communities across all different faiths and across all different beliefs to ensure that we can continue to have that peaceful society. The Scottish Government stands in solidarity with our faith communities at the current time who are experiencing a rise in discrimination and intolerance. It's hugely important, therefore, that visits like this take place with ministers showing our support to our faith communities in particular, standing in solidarity and in peace.
That's the end result of that. So what that boomer said in the 60s, this is the consequence of it. You know what she said? That, oh, let's update our education system. And oh, by the way, when they were updating their educational system, I was talking to someone, some British woman. She's 30 years old. So she was telling me that. So obviously she's a decade younger than me. So she was telling in her school, they were constantly told how bad colonialism was. Like they wouldn't say any good bits of them. So that's what they meant by updating the education system. And look, this is the consequence of it. This is not Britain. Even though it is done in the name of compassion and empathy, losing your identity is not worth it. Not for compassion, not for the good of the world or for some other greater good. No. You need to protect your identity. But that's not it. You know, that's just the aesthetics of it, yeah? It's just ugly, I'm sorry. This is if I went to England, I don't want to see this. I want to go there and I want to experience English culture, not this. But look at this. It's not just the aesthetics that have suffered immensely because of multiculturalism. Look at this. This is I think he's some European guy, elderly person. Have a look at this.
Ulang betul. Oh, shaky boy. Fuck the bro. Cuba nu.
Imagine this.
Hey. I've activated it. Oh, yo. What the?
I wonder if he held the same views that this woman held early on that I showed you. And if he did, I wonder what he thinks now. I wonder what that woman thinks now.
Do you want? Ciao, boys.
Yeah, I think you've seen enough. Let me show you some more fruits of multiculturalism. This is obviously America, so this is not multiculturalism. I think this is just Americans are stuck with this. Americans are just stuck with the sins of their ancestors. They can't do anything. What is this? What is this? What is this? Seriously. Do you want to see more? Let me show you some more. This is London, by the way. This is not America. So London's, this problem is completely imported in our lifetime. You can't really, well, in the case of America, you can't really do much because that happened, 300 years ago. So you can't really do anything. But this is an imported problem. So as a result, which I've been saying, things are gonna get bad at some point. Okay, it's gonna happen. People are gonna start taking matters into their own hands. And as you know, what happened in in Northern Ireland, it's happening everywhere. But the Irish, they're cut from a different cloth. So again, I'm not endorsing this. I actually fear this. So in Ireland, people are just hunting down migrants. People are just hunting them down. I've seen many of these videos where people are just chasing anyone who looks non-Irish and they are hunting them down. Then they're beating them up. You can see the Irish might be the first ones to take it to the next level. But, well, he gets away, I think, so don't worry about that. So he's safe. But they won't be the last ones to do that. This is what we've been warning about for years, that this is going to get ugly. This is going to get out of hands. And these people, that first minister that I showed you, they will be nowhere to be seen when what we're seeing in Ireland starts playing out on the streets of Melbourne and Sydney and London and New York. Well, maybe not New York, but it's going to happen in other places at some point, because common sense has to make a comeback. This cannot be ignored. What I just showed you is not even a tiny snippet of what I have seen and what other people have seen. Stabbings, break-ins in Australia. I've said this so many times before. There was no culture of house break-ins in Australia. Okay, even our gangbangers, even the underworld, they will not break into the house of a rival gang member. They would actually wait for him to come out of the house, and then they will do a drive, or they will do drive-by shooting, or they will wait for him to come out and then they will get him when he's getting in his car. I'm not saying that that's good, but I'm just saying that this culture of people breaking into people's houses in Melbourne is completely a foreign culture. And when you look into it, who are those people? African gang members, African youth. They're 14, 15, so they can't even go to jail. And then obviously in Europe, look at this. They're not just harassing older people. Look at this. This is harassing them. Oh, bless him. He's still fighting back. Oh. Harassing an elderly person. They're not just harassing the elderly. Look at this. He just slapped a child. He just slapped a child. This happened in Spain. This North African asylum seeker. This is what's happening throughout Europe. And people are getting angry. People are getting upset. Women are getting raped in unimaginable numbers. Again, you got to remember where we started from. That boomer woman from the 60s, everything was going down at that point. The world looked like a really good place, even though the West was at war with the Soviet Union. And that's why I think people really glorify 1991. I was a little kid, so I didn't really understand the significance of that event at that point. But when the Berlin Wall was brought down, and then a year later, the Soviet Union got dissolved. The world looked like a good place, and I think that's why Westerners became even more compassionate. But this is a result of it, guys. When your compassion exceeds the global average compassion levels, then it's unsustainable.
In 59 days, across January and February, in 59 days, there was 1,435 rapes reported in London.
And that's reported.
That's not white people, because this rate, the graph of rapes is actually going up like that. And you know how the left responds? They say that murders have gone down since the 90s, as though that is the only metric. What about random stabbings? What about the sexual? I actually do have a graph. I'll try to find it.
So you could probably double that, or even more multiples of it, because a lot of people won't.
That's it. The sexual assault and rape numbers have gone up by 400%. So when Sadiq Khan talks about, it's the safest city in the country, it's outrageous. We know that there are rape gangs operating in London. We know that there's trafficking. We know all of these things, and we know who the predators are, mainly.
Mainly people of foreign descent. Let me show you this stat. It's just a horrible deal. They commit more crime, they suck more welfare, and they actually pose a civilizational threat as well. Look at this. This is a rape chart of England from 2002 till 2023. Look at that. It's constantly going up. What happened in 2012, 2013? Migration doubled, tripled, quadrupled. Even though the UK government purposefully does not record certain identifiers because obviously they don't want us to talk about it. There are other organizations like think tanks that have done their research. Look at this. Center for Migration Control, which is a think tank. Look at this. Sexual offenses per 10,000 people. Afghanistan. So 55, nearly 60. 60 times they're more likely. Actually, no, sorry. This is per 10,000. So yeah, well, it is almost 60,000 times more likely because if the UK is at 1, that's the baseline. Look at this. All third worlders. All of those people that the UK would be just fine without. The UK would not lose anything if it kicked out everyone from those countries. I'm not saying, obviously, there's some individuals who have done well, but if you zoom out, if you look at the bigger picture, the UK is not going to lose anything. So yeah, I think the West became too civilized, which means, because necessity is the mother of all inventions, our circumstances determine our mood. Our circumstances shape our culture and our behavior too. So that's why I said that what we're seeing in Ireland is going to start happening everywhere, all over the Western world, because people have had enough. People are going to respond. This is why they're just waiting for one more democratic chance. The UK looks like it's sitting on a powder keg. Any day, any incident can happen, which it is going to happen. We'll be lucky not to have another migrant-related criminal incident this week alone. So something's going to happen. Whether people will react to it, I don't know. But something will happen again the next week and the week after. And then again, it's going to happen. And again, things are going to get out of control. So people are right now waiting for their democratic chance. I think in the UK, this is the last chance. Absolutely, this is the last chance in 2029. In Australia, we might get away with it. But the good thing is, in Australia, we're waking up at just the right time. Pauline Hanson's political party is the most popular political party, and Pauline Hanson herself is leading the polls individually as well. So fingers crossed, if nothing else happens, this momentum continues. I think from now on, Pauline Hanson is going to extend her lead from the other two political parties, which is a good thing. So otherwise, if that doesn't happen, guys, the reason why I am emphasizing on this point because is that if we don't find a political solution, then we're going to see what we saw on the streets of Northern Ireland, in Belfast, and now in Dublin. That's going to happen in the streets of Melbourne, Sydney, London, everywhere. It could happen everywhere because when people are not heard through democratic means, then they don't just go away. Self-preservation is the strongest force in the universe.